After you take the hand clutch out, the next thing you need to do is take the key off the shaft. Next, you want to take off the bearing cover. Now we have to tap the shaft out. I basically took a rod and I turned the end down, put a taper on it so that the end would fit into the turned end of the shaft, so that when you go to pound it out, you just put the tip inside the turn point and you start hammering. That does two things. One, it keeps this end of the rod supported while you're hitting it so you don't have to hang on to it. And the second thing it does is it don't mushroom the outside of the shaft where it's going to hinder you putting the assembly back together. Make sure you inspect your bearings and your races. Now just tap your seal out. Now we're going to put in the shaft seal. That's where the seal goes. You see a snap ring, and then behind the snap ring is the bearing race. Okay, when you go to pound in or drive in your seal, make sure you pound on the outer edge, or I should say all the pressure goes on towards the outer edge. Never pound, press, tap in the center of your seal, because the seal housing will bend and distort, which will also distort your seal, and your seal will be ruined at that point and it will leak from that point on. So they do make bearing, race, and seal set kits to install these. My kit don't go up that far or this big of diameter, so what I'm using is a big socket, and it's just about to the edge of that, and I feel comfortable with that, so that's what I'm going to use to drive in, a big socket. Make sure you stop and check and make sure that your seal is going in evenly and not at an angle. Take your time with it. Don't get in a hurry. When you get done, it should look something like that. Also, you want to take some emery cloth and clean up the shaft that goes into your hand clutch. And like usual, anti-seize. Anti-seize is your friend. Even in the keyway. Now it's time to put the shaft back in. Got anti-seize all the way around the shaft. When you go to put this in, you got these ribs sticking up. And what you don't want to do is have that down on the side where your teeth of the bull gear is at. You want to keep a flat spot. Use this flat spot here on that shield. Have that down towards your bull gear as you slide it in. Otherwise it's going to get hung up. With your left hand, try to catch the end of the shaft and center it in the seal and very carefully push the seal or the shaft through. And line up your teeth of the gear and push it in. Okay, now we're going to put in the race. I recommend you using a lead mallet. Go around and start tapping it in. Try to get it to go in evenly. One thing you don't want to do is do not pound this all the way until it seats. You're going to want to use the bearing cap or bearing cover to finish pushing that race in place. And the reason for that is because on your bearing cap there are a layer of shims. You see that too good on camera. A layer of shims in here which adjusts for your backlash and tension on your bearings. So you want your bearing cap to push it in place so that you know exactly how much pressure that cap's pushing on that bearing race. For an example, if you pound that race all the way in to seat it and you have too many shims, what's going to happen is you're going to check it and it's going to feel like it's correct. And then after you start using the tractor, since you have too many shims in there, that race could work its way out and cause that shaft to have more in play, and it's going to start wearing on the bearings and the seals, and you'll be taking it apart and doing it all over again. When you tighten these up, try to go corner to corner. Try to take it evenly. Little at a time. Okay. Now I'm checking it. The shaft, I cannot move the shaft back and forth, and it rotates with just a little slight drag on it, so I'm calling it good. Since I didn't change any of the races or the bearings, and if it was adjusted right before I took it off, I shouldn't have to do anything. But if you put new bearings and new races in, you're probably going to have to adjust those shims.